Hey, what's going on YouTube? So today I'm gonna actually be installing the small turbo manifold and finishing up some stuff on it that I didn't show last video, so you guys can see what it looks like in the car and why I made that block off plate and didn't use that port. I will also be installing the engine mount that is required for going bottom mount. It's used on multiple turbo manifolds, so this engine mount can be used on, a various amount of different builds that you guys are doing. And installing the turbo just as a mock-up, not actually for good. That turbo will probably come on and off a dozen more times during this, so I know where I need to put my drain for my oil pan. In the last video I didn't actually weld this block off plate up. I was going to save it because, well, at the time I was working on other stuff. But when you do this, make sure you bolt it down and then you weld it, like, let's say a quarter at a time. I went maybe a little too much and wait 10-15 minutes in between, just to try helping the chances of trying to keep it from warping. And then keep it bolted once you're done so that it actually cools off while it's bolted, because you really don't want this flange to warp. Yes, it's about half inch thick, but there's still a chance it can warp, especially since it only has 2 bolts holding it on. And I just cut off a piece of 1/4 inch metal, really sloppy with a grinder. A little bit of a gap there, but that'll just help penetration, so it's not a big deal. So when I install these studs, I usually do not completely bottom them out, as you can see here. I get very close. But the thing with these studs are, they are a little shorter than the OE M54 studs, but they're way easier to install. All you gotta do is grab your little ratchet here, put it on them, and just run them in. And there's plenty of threads there, so if you do what I'm doing here, I said but if you do what I'm doing here, you can just leave them out just a little bit before they bottom out. That way you have no issue getting the nut to fully engage, but that is totally up to you guys. That's just how I do it. The turbo manifold is pretty much ready to go in the car. I should only have to mount this thing one time. Unlike the turbo and stuff, it's probably gonna have to come off multiple times for clocking or, my down pipe fitment, all that stuff. But I'm gonna go ahead and mount this once and for all. I got the plate welded, it's all good and everything. And it does not come with a gasket, but the crush gaskets for wastegates will fit. You do have to kind of make the holes a little closer to the inside of the hole for the studs, but it works totally fine. I done that last time on the last car I built. And I also used copper spray a gasket, kind of cringy, but I used it on both sides of the gasket and on the manifold and on the flange and torqued it down. And I apologize to the picky ones. Yes, the studs did get paint on them, but really though, what's it gonna matter? No one's gonna see it and it's not gonna hurt anything. I apologize. I got the turbo manifold on and it fit great. Of course, a lot of the studs were an absolute pain to get on, but that's any manifold. That's headers, that's stock manifolds, that's everything. So I got all that on, and you can tell now why I would block off that plate back there and not actually use that location. It is in a horrible spot. And I have used that before with a tube that relocates the wastegate on a different build, and it was a nightmare. Just don't do it. Block it off. I'll go ahead and show you the underneath, what it looks like. Here's the bottom view of the manifold. And there's all the new studs and nuts. No, like I said in the last video, no, you do not have to drill and tap out all the holes in the block. Depending on what year you have, you may have all the holes already, and sure, use as many as you can, but if you don't, it's not worth going through the pain. Just don't do it, it's a pain in the butt. Maybe if your engine's out of the car already, maybe, but it still sucks. I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys the engine mount required for this build when you go bottom mount. And I'm probably gonna mock up the turbo and start thinking about this oil pan mess back here and cleaning it up and taking it off and getting ready to weld on a bung for the drain. But I want to have the turbo and stuff mocked up so that I know the angle and where I need to put the bung. But that will be next video, because you can make a whole video on this oil drain stuff, because it's the most confusing part of this. People always use pumps and stuff like that. It is surely possible to do this just with gravity. So that'll be next video. I'll go ahead and get everything mocked up though. Here's the engine mount required for doing a bottom mount turbo build. This is used on most bottom mount turbo manifolds also, not just this one. And I got this off of B Racing Tuning's website. They're definitely affordable enough to where it's just worth buying one instead of going through the time of trying to make your own, because you might as well just buy one and make life easier on yourself and get it right the first time. And this is required so that your inlet of your turbo can have an intake put on it or whatever, and so that your old engine mount is not in the way. I have the turbo mocked up in there just so I can get an idea on my drain. And as you can see, everything fits great. It's almost like factory in there. That's the cool side about bottom mounts versus top mounts. Everything kind of looks like it belongs there. For the actual drain fitting, I'm trying to decide yet if I want to go here or here. Most people grind this rib off and they go right here with their fitting on their pan, but I'll explain more about that next video. I kind of want to go right here, and you guys have to remember, you have to go, it's actually more than a 45-degree angle, because these inline sixes sit at such a tilt that a 45 is almost just like a 90 by the time it's mounted and the engine's in. So I will be welding this off the car on another engine that's on a stand, just so I know like my clearance between the block and stuff like that. But it'll probably go right there. I'll just explain more of that in my next post. I don't know when that'll be yet. Another thing I didn't tell you guys, these factory bolts for the engine mount are actually too long once you go to the steel, because this flange is thinner than the thick aluminum mounts. So you do have to use a shorter bolt. Like, we're talking barely anything though, just a shorter bolt. You could grind them down if you really wanted to, but there's other bolts, if you guys have a lot of bolts off other E46s that you're collecting, that would fit perfectly. So I forgot to mention that. And then obviously this will be cut off and there will be a 90 put in there, so we can go above the subframe. We do not want to go under the subframe. Do not do that. That is a terrible idea, because you're just going to rip off all your intercooler piping, because that'll be the lowest point in your car. So there's everything installed. Now I have to take it all apart and jack this thing up and pull the oil pan off. Filming the outro sitting on the Sulev, because that's all it's good for. It just sits in the yard and doesn't really even look pretty, to be honest. Looks like crap. So I know a lot didn't happen in today's video. There will be a few videos that are like that, but it's all still information that you will need, especially once you get to that point and you have questions. This will also keep you guys from screwing up. You're also brave for watching me and listening to me, because I'm no professional. I'm just trying my best, and I appreciate all the views on these videos, because if it wasn't for the viewers, I don't know if I would really have the motivation to do this. When I made my first YouTube video, I was just doing it for a parts breakdown for people who kept asking questions on forums and stuff, and now we're here. So it did way better than I thought. Make sure to subscribe, guys. A lot of you guys viewing the videos aren't subscribed. It's all right though, because the view is still nice. Next video is, like I said about 20 times in this video, oil pan drain, like the crappiest part of your turbo build. It sucks next to having to build your exhaust, depending on how good you are at fabrication. You guys are going to get to see that too. I'm no pro. And the school next to my house is having band practice, so this is definitely a good time to end this video. Thanks guys. I don't know when the next video will be up. I've already been filming parts for it, so possibly by the end of this week.